Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, my name is Rachma Insanikmawati Kunbara, and in this occasion, I would like to share you about the task 2 of grammar analysis. Noun clause and adjective clause. Part 1, noun clause. In this part, I would like to discuss about what is a noun clause, the function of noun clauses, noun clauses versus relative clauses, noun clause markers, and noun clause in reported speech. Noun clause. Before I explain about a noun clause, I would like to explain about a clause. A clause is a group of words containing a subject and a verb. There are two types of clauses, independent clause and dependent clause. A noun clause is a type of subordinate clause or dependent clause that acts as a noun in a sentence. Let's take a look at for the example. They discuss about it. It here is a noun. The second example, they discussed about the plan. The plan is a noun phrase, a group of words, but there is no verb. And the third example, they discussed about what they were going to do. Here it is a noun clause. Next, the function of noun clause. It can be used as first as a subject, second direct object, third indirect object, fourth object of preposition, and the fifth appositive. Noun clause as a subject of verb. It functions as the subject of a dependent clause and does exactly what a subject does. Examples: that she can play piano so well surprises me. How the country could fall into chaotic situation was a chief concern. Why he left is a mystery. The sentences that I have bold is a noun clause used as a subject of verb. Second, noun clause as a direct object. Noun clauses can function as direct objects of the verb in the sentence or the independent clause. Direct objects are words, phrases, or clauses that receive the action of transitive verbs. Examples: I couldn't see whether it was day or night. I can't respect what the teacher said. The child admitted that he stole the cookie. Dad cannot remember what mom wants for birthday gift. Third, noun clause as an indirect object. Noun clauses can function as indirect objects of the verb in the sentence or independent clause. In the sentences with transitive verbs, indirect objects receive the direct object. They typically come between the verb and the direct object. Examples: the government provides whoever is in need a shelter. Whoever is in need is a noun clause having its own subject and verb and functioning as an indirect object of the verb provides. Fourth, noun clause as object of preposition. Nouns act as objects to prepositions like on, about, or for. Together, the preposition and its object form a prepositional phrase. Examples: our suspect depends on who owns the murder weapon. The people want to hear about why you are running for Congress. Sheila didn't listen to what Tommy said. Pay careful attention to what I am going to say. Fifth, noun clause as a positive. In grammar, a positive means placing near. It refers to words, phrases, and clauses that describe or explain another noun or noun phrase. Examples: the problem that you did not pick up the packages delays the entire production schedule. I think the solution that he hired a replacement was the best course of action at the time. The answer from the company that we buy a new computer angers me. Noun clauses versus relative clauses. Although both noun clauses and relative clauses can begin with relative pronouns, noun clauses function differently than relative clauses. A noun clause completely replaces an individual noun in a sentence. However, relative clauses don't replace anything. They simply add new information. They modify nouns instead of taking their place. Examples: George needs to speak with whoever runs the store. George needs to speak with the person who runs the store. In the first example above, the noun clause whoever runs the store acts as the object of the preposition with. But in the second example, the person is the object of the preposition with. The relative clause who runs the store is an adjective phrase that describes and modifies the person but does not replace it like a noun clause does. Noun clause markers. Noun clause is always begun with a noun clause marker, or sometimes called subordinator. Here are the noun clause markers used in noun clause. First that, second if whether, third WH words how, what, when, where, which, who, whom, whose, why, and the fourth WH ever words like however, whatever, whenever, wherever, whichever, whoever, and whomever. The choice of the noun clause marker depends on the types of clause. First, that is used for a statement. For example, I know that Billy made a mistake. The truth was that the moving company lost all your furniture. Second, if and whether are used for yes or no questions. For example, George wonders if Fred knows how to cook. I didn't know whether I should laugh or cry. Third, WH words are used for WH questions. I don't know where Suryo is. They guess what he meant. WH ever words are used for WH questions. Whoever broke the vase will have to pay for it. George eats whatever is on his plate. Noun clause in reported speech. Reported speech refers to using a noun clause to report what someone has said. The most significant grammatical feature is the change in the verb form in the reported clause. Here I provide some examples from the quoted speech to reported speech. She said, I study every day. She said that she studied every day. She said, I'm studying. She said that she was studying. She said, I have studied. She said that she had studied. She said, I studied last night. She said that she had studied the night before. She said, I will study. She said that she would study. She said, I'm going to study. She said that she was going to study. She said, I can study. She said that she could study. She said, I may study. She said that she might study. She said, I might study. She said that she might study. She said, I must study. She said that she had to study. She said, I have to study. She said that she had to study. She said, I should study. She said that she should study. She said, I ought to study. She said that she ought to study. She said, study. She told me to study. She said, do you study? She asked me if I studied. In reported speech, an imperative sentence is changed into infinitive. Tell is used instead of say as reporting verb. Note that tell is immediately followed by a noun or pronoun object, but say is not. Ask is commonly used instead of say in reported questions. Like tell, ask is immediately followed by a noun or pronoun object. Part 2. Adjective clause. In this part, I would like to explain about first, what is adjective clause? Second, the characteristics of adjective clause. And the third, the function of adjective clause. Adjective clause. Adjective clause is dependent clause that modify nouns or pronouns. They are introduced by the relative pronouns who, whose, whom, that, which, when, and where. For example, the new restaurant, which just opened last month, has already closed down. I took my partner who has never seen snow on a ski trip. Additionally, the relative pronouns whoever, whomever, wherever, and whichever can also introduce adjective clauses, but these are much less common than those in the list above. For example, we will take either a taxi or bus, whichever comes first. The characteristic of adjective clause. First, they are dependent clauses. They have a subject and a verb but cannot stand alone. Second, typically start with a relative pronoun. Third, modify or describe a noun or pronoun. And the fourth, come after the noun they modify. Here's are the example. The book that I borrowed from the library is due next week. I spent 2 hours talking to Kim, whom I'd met only once before. The woman who lives next door is a doctor. The movie that we watched last night was really good. The next is the function of adjective clause. There are four functions of adjective clause. First, as a noun phrase modifier. Second, as a verb phrase modifier. Third, as a prepositional phrase modifier. And the fourth, as a noun clause modifier. First, as a noun phrase modifier. A noun phrase modifier is a word, phrase, or clause that modifies or describes a noun including a pronoun or noun phrase. For example, Harry Potter is the boy who lived. The map you sent me last week seems outdated. The cookies, which I promptly devoured, reminded me of home. My aunt is the woman to whom you should have emailed the instructions. A book that you ordered through interlibrary loan arrived this morning. Second, as a verb phrase modifier. A verb phrase modifier is Second, as a verb phrase modifier. A verb phrase modifier is a word, phrase, or clause that modifies or describes a verb phrase. Adjective clauses modify only verb phrases in the form of present participles performing nominal functions. Only which adjective clauses function as verb phrase modifiers. For example, reading, which is one of my favorite pastimes, keeps the mind sharp. Washing the windows, which still needs completed, occurs every Wednesday morning. I enjoy writing about language, which I do almost every single day. Third, as a prepositional phrase modifier. A prepositional phrase modifier is a word, phrase, or clause that modifies or describes a prepositional phrase. Adjective clauses modify only prepositional phrases performing nominal functions, only which adjective clauses function as prepositional phrase modifiers. For example, between 7 and 9, which is a reasonable time frame, is when employees must arrive. In the clauses, which is quite dark, is rather scary. After 6, which is usually also after dinner, is a good time to call. Fourth, as a non-clause modifier. A non-clause modifier is a word, phrase, or clause that modifies or describes a non-clause. Only which adjective clauses function as non-clause modifiers. For example, then the museum canceled the lecture, which is quite surprising, disappoints me. She worked hard for the whole term, which still amazes me. That she worked hard for the whole term, which still amazes me, please her parents. How the clouds drifted on that chilly afternoon, which still makes me smile, may never happen again. That's all for me. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.